like we're back in the studio. Los Angeles, 1997.
That's a good analogy.
Brett Gurewitz behind the controls. This is Brett.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind. Not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sounds like shown at night. Never fear about what I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stand all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you and do the things you do. Stay all night. I'm gonna ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get down on yours.
Yeah, Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. You think?
This is not mine.
Stand all night, I gotta ride. Each time I stand all night, no, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stand all night.
R.I.P. Todd.
Robin, your questions, comments, wagers, give us a reason. Sleeper fantasy play, your best alternative line, whatever you have. Text the round robin 757-354-5517.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose cross nights and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, they proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, take us past our spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the brave and the home of the brave.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
You are tuned in to the Round Robin with Stephen Murray on Deep End Broadcasting.
Anytime
Here we are. It's Wild Card Weekend. This is the Round Robin on the Deep End Broadcasting Network. I am Stephen Murray. We are live just after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here from the beautiful coastline of Virginia Beach, Virginia, the United States of America. So this is a Friday special show. We'll have the Friday soccer paycheck coming up right after this program, but we will tune in with Dave Del Grande on the West Coast for this hour, and we'll get all his takes on the games this weekend. A little bit of past news. We'll ask him a couple other random things to put a bow tie on the season. But Dave Del Grande will join us. He works for Field Level Media. He's out in the San Francisco Bay Area. Lots of rain out there. Mudslides galore right around my brother's house. He's in Southern California, though, so we'll get a good inside scoop of what exactly is going on with the weather out there in California once we get Dave on. And that's going to maybe play a role in the first game here. We have a good slate of games. I think they're all rematches. Here's the thing. I've been hearing all week. We've seen the same game. We've another rematch, whatever. Been there, done that. Not expecting much, not expecting any glitz or glamour or any kind of crazy fireworks. But I think whenever anyone kind of thinks that, it's exactly the opposite. So that this is a weekend potentially that could be very, very good. There are definitely some games on paper that look like complete mismatches at this point. Injuries are also going to play a role as well. Of late breaking news with San Diego and Mike Williams. So he is going to be out. Just interesting stuff there with the players for the Chargers playing last week. Not sure what to make of that. I guess we'll have to ask Del Grande about that as well. What was Coach Staley thinking? Maybe a little bit overplayed in the media this week or over talked about, but we're going to have to get into it with him just to get Dave's take on that as well. But we have a full slate of games, 6 games. We'll go hit them all with Dave Del Grande today, our 1-hour special. And then the game plan is this. We will be broadcasting live from CP Shuckers tomorrow from 11 until 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That is before the games. So 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will go ahead. We'll have Nephew Dave. We'll have the Ant-Man. We'll have whoever's coming to our wild card party that can come on the air. And I've been doing production for it for a decent amount of the afternoon here. After the broadcast today, we'll have to break down a little bit here in the studio. But we have enough of a mobile studio put together where we just need to supplement some parts. And we're hoping to have more, but it's been, we need to win more football bets, put it that way. Because as long as the accounting department is coming out of my pocket, then we're going to, just so close. It's just so stupid on some of the stuff that we've been not winning at really lately. A little frustrating, but we'll hopefully turn the tide. We're going to have to find some good angles for the week. Full slate of games. So this will be fun. Wild Card Weekend is always a good weekend. It's one of my more favorite football weekends of this year. And here we are. We got 2 extra games again this year. Now, remember in overtime for the playoffs this year as well, the team, if they score a touchdown, the game is not over. The other team has a chance to match. So if you'll get your fair ups, it's your basically it's your Buffalo Bills Josh Allen rule. They had to throw that in there. They wanted to give Allen another chance after the Chiefs beat the Bills in that great overtime game last season. So they're going to give Josh Allen a chance if it gets to all that again. And it didn't matter with Brady and the Chiefs when they played each other. The Patriots and the Chiefs when Brady walked it off against Kansas City. Also, the Super Bowl in the overtime with Atlanta and New England. Atlanta never got a chance. So New England went ahead and walked that game off. So there will be no more walk-offs in terms of just going down the field and getting a touchdown and the game is over. You're going to actually have to work a little bit more on defense. Okay, so all that being said, keep that in mind for all the games going ahead. Weather-wise, right now, it looks like it's going to be chilly in Buffalo. Everyone's been playing down the weather angle there, although it looks like it's pretty cold compared to last time. It's going to be about 30 degrees at kickoff, 21 for a low on Sunday, 30 for a high. So figure upper 20s. Winds won't be too crazy. So that should be pretty decent for the Bills. Yeah, here we go. 28 degrees, light winds at kickoff on Sunday in Buffalo. We'll get Dave's take on the weather for where he's at. Minnesota is indoors, of course. Tampa Bay, we'll get their weather real quick. Let's take a quick updated look on that. Monday night in Tampa Bay looks like a beautiful night. It looks like around kickoff, we have 57 degrees and light winds there. So that won't be an issue. And we'll go ahead and check Jacksonville while we're at it here too. We'll have to get Cincinnati weather as well. But the Jacksonville weather, latest update for that on Saturday night. It's going to be a little bit cool night there in Jacksonville on Saturday. So at nighttime kickoff, right about 8 o'clock, it's going to be 40 degrees. 40 degrees in Jacksonville on Saturday night. So not even the home team's really going to be ready for that. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the Cincinnati weather real quick. We always want to make sure we have the weather angle played. And we'll get Dave's take on that as well here in a second. Cincinnati weather on Sunday night, right around 8 o'clock. No winds, right of freezing, so 31 degrees. All right, we got your ticker at the bottom. We'll go ahead and take a break. And after this, Dave Del Grande from Field Level Media. We will be right back after this. Family-owned and operated, CP Shuckers Cafe and Raw Bar specializes in delicious cuisine, refreshing drinks, and a laid-back atmosphere. We opened our doors in 1995 and have enjoyed being a place to either relax or celebrate ever since. Whether you are in the mood to indulge in a great meal with your friends and family or watch the game, we promise that our inventive menu, attentive service, and skilled bartenders will have you truly satisfied. Both of our locations have spacious outdoor patios for enjoying the breeze and catching a little sun. Our friendly staff at CP Shuckers will make your next dining experience a pleasant one by delivering personal care. We are open until 2 a.m. Full menu will be served until 10 p.m. and late night limited menu until 1 a.m. For larger parties, please give the location of choice a call. Pacific Avenue, 757-425-8676 or Shore Drive, 757-412-2929. More information at cpshuckers.com. Thank you for your continued support and have a shucking good time.
Hey, does your home have algae or stains on the siding? Is there grime built up on your deck or brick patio? Coastal Pressure Washing Services has a warranty of professional services. From pressure washing to window cleaning to deck and fence staining, as well as dryer vent cleaning, you got it all. Call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-98 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net. Again, call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net.
Dependable Solutions can provide all voiceover services for your advanced audio production needs. Think of us as an inexpensive option, no matter what the size of the project is. From one-word cameos to full script productions, contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517. Do you want to advertise with Deep End Broadcasting? Send us an email at deepend757@yahoo.com. That's deepend757@yahoo.com.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
It is estimated that 23% of car accidents each year involve a cell phone. That's 1.3 million accidents a year. Reaching for your phone, you are 4 times more likely to crash. Dialing on your phone, 2.8 times more likely to crash. And texting on your phone, you are 23 times more likely to crash. Attentive drivers are safe drivers.
Know your gambling limits. Don't ever bet what you can't cover. Wagering on sports is only fun when you do it the right way. Not every bet will win. When you get on a bad run, know it and avoid trouble. Know your gambling limits.
Control your alcohol. Don't fight. Don't drink and drive. Your one punch could kill someone. It happens. If you're behind the wheel, you may think you are fine, but then the other driver is under the influence of texting, and then you are done. Control your alcohol.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
All right, we are back. We're going to get Dave Del Grande on here in a second. All right, you put your bowl. Ready to go. All right, and on with us from the Bay Area, San Francisco, California, from Field Level Media. He's been with us all season to talk about these games, and here we are, Dave. We're already in the playoffs. We have Dave Del Grande out in the Bay Area. Dave, my brother, who is down in Thousand Oaks, my mom was talking about how he's trying to get away from mudslides, and I'm hearing about all kinds of other crazy weather out there. What's happening out there in California weather-wise?
Actually, tiny little Castro Valley, California here, just south of Oakland, made national news for having a road collapse, and so a sinkhole kind of thing. So it's hard for anybody who doesn't live in California to understand our situation, because it's not it's not unusual for where anybody else lives. I mean, it rains here. I mean, the worst traffic day of the year every year is the first day that it rains, because people don't know what to do. They don't even know how to turn on their windshield wipers. That is in the years that it does rain. Sometimes it goes years without raining in California. But, it's a decent sized storm. There's California, you don't get lightning. You generally don't get heavy winds. We're not going to have a tornado here or a hurricane or anything like that. It's just a significant amount of rain. But, it probably snowed more in Buffalo a couple weekends ago than the entire amount of rain we've had this last month here. So it's just a lack of preparedness. It's just we haven't when it never rains, you don't have a raincoat. And I think that's kind of the best way of, I don't mean to belittle the problems that people are having out here, but the fact is that when you don't have a raincoat, even a drizzle seems like, you're sopping wet. And so that's kind of what's happening.
Okay. All right. So we have a lot to get to. Wild card weekend. We got our teams in the playoffs that we thought we would get, which includes a couple of bad teams. We'll get all into that. Let me try to wrap up the season with a couple things first. I guess maybe this kind of transitions into next season as well. Let's see here. Sean Payton, if you're Sean Payton, what's your ideal coaching job next year?
Well, I would say none. I mean, I can't believe that he wants to get back into it. It's one of those things where it used to be that just the players made a lot of money, and you wondered why, after they played 10 years, why they'd want to play 5 more after making all the millions and millions of dollars that they did and putting their bodies on the line. Now coaches are making that kind of money, and you wonder, he can't need the money. I mean, it's so easy for these guys to go into broadcasting these days. He kind of had one foot in that door already this year. I'm not sure he's good at it, but just when you have a name, that it hasn't stopped other guys. Look at Rex Ryan. Who would have thought he, was a good broadcaster? Not sure that he is, but he's got a nice seat there every Sunday. So, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't, obviously if I were him, I wouldn't want to get involved in a rebuild kind of thing. You would hope, I mean, I think the best job that could open up, where I think he would really, he maybe should really take a look at it, would be the Chargers. I gotta believe the Chargers are getting tired of Staley's act. And if
that's a good transition into my next question. I mean, just go right ahead. I mean, last week he played the players. We both like Denver. I mean, let it rip. What do you got?
Well, I mean, I don't have as much a problem with that as, I mean, look around. I mean, and granted, other games meant a little bit more, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a lot more. But you didn't see a whole lot of guys resting last week. I mean, the 49ers could have easily not played their guys. They played them all and got lucky that nobody got injured. I mean, the Cowboys played guys for a while and took them out. And where do you draw that line? It's got to be very difficult. And then when you don't play them, and then you come back 2 weeks later and, oh, geez, we lost because they were rusty. People are complaining. So, I mean, it was just another something else for people to complain about with him. And unfortunately, there's already a laundry list. I think that, me personally, I think they did not have a good season this year. If they bow out in the playoffs, to this, Jacksonville team that has no playoff experience, it could be his last straw. So that would be the kind of situation. Maybe the Raiders are giving up already on their coach. That would be not a bad situation to jump into. But I wouldn't want to get involved in something like Houston, where you're basically starting from scratch. If Pete Carroll were to resign, I'd almost put that in a Houston type situation. There's a major rebuild going on there. There's probably a major rebuild going on in Denver. There's a lot of places where the jobs that are opening, predictably, are bad situations. That you don't really want to get involved in. So if I were him, I'd be patient. Who knows? Maybe Dallas, Dallas wises up and fires McCarthy, after they lose, and not necessarily even in the first round of the playoffs. And then you luck into something really nice.
Sean McVay, what's he going to be doing next year?
Again, I don't see. It's hard to it's hard to say what these guys are going to be doing. I don't really know his private life that well. I just think that, you know, you probably dreamed this yourself on one of your 10-leg parlays that includes a final score that's 19-18. I mean, you know, what are you gonna do the next day? You're gonna hang up your headset. You know, you're gonna retire and live some kind of great life. Well, I'm surprised that more people who hit the lottery, more people who get that, you know, 4-year, $20 million guarantee to coach a team, you know, don't decide that, you know what, 4 years from now, I'm out of here. You know, I've hit my lottery. I'm young. You know, I can get a nice young family, beautiful wife, you know, never have to coach again. So I'm, you know, if a coach has that kind of mentality, I love it. I mean, you know, more credit to him. So he seems to be a guy who has a lot of life in him. I mean, as opposed to some of the, you know, what's Pete Carroll going to do if he retires? You know, he's 70 years old, you know. But, you know, McVay's a very young man, and I wouldn't put it past him just to walk away from it and start a second life.
Okay, I'm going to put you in the shoes of what do you think this guy's going to do one more time. But Tom Brady, what do you think is his ideal situation next year?
I mean, I'd say the same thing for Rodgers. You know, those guys were not nearly as good this year as they've been in the past. I mean, serious drop off. And it's sure when you get older, there's going to be gradual drop off. You didn't really see it with either one of those guys. Maybe Brady, this is his second year of it. Certainly not Rodgers, who was the MVP of the regular season last year. But those guys this year were not even average NFL quarterbacks anymore. And why are they sticking around? I mean, you know, I'm going to be shocked if either one of those guys is back next year. I'm going to be disappointed if either one of those guys is back next year, because it just means somebody is buying into a name or a history or something that's just not there anymore.
So Rodgers and Brady, and obviously the quarterback situation now is San Francisco. Is there any way Shanahan would reach for one of those guys?
I don't see why. I mean, what makes the 49ers quarterback situation interesting is it's an example, and I think more and more teams are starting to see this. It's an example of the way you beat NFL defenses these days is by keeping things simple. You know, do what Brady's done for 20 years. You know, throw the short pass, flip it out to the back, be the smartest guy in the room. You know, take a first look, take a second look, throw to the third guy, move the chains, have a bunch of little Edelman, Godwin type receivers. And I think what the 49ers have seen is, wow, we spent all of this draft capital to get this incredible athlete, this generational, you know, Jackson type of, you know, guy who's going to be a dual threat and what have you. And what ends up happening is a guy you never, you know, would consider would ever start a game for your team comes in an emergency situation, and you see this guy is perfect. This guy is a dream quarterback for Shanahan because he's like an extension of the coach. He sees what the coach wants him to see. He throws the ball when and where the coach wants him to throw the ball. It's like, wow, this guy's perfect. How much did we have to pay for him? Well, no, we got him for free. And so to me, it's kind of, you know, it's the Dan Marino syndrome. You know, it's like you could be the greatest quarterback, have the greatest, strongest arm, but come playoff time, the field shrinks. The field is a lot harder that, you're not going to get a lot of deeper balls. The weather's not as good in a lot of these places. The defenses are better. You're better off having Tom Brady with his noodle arm than you are having Dan Marino with his golden arm in those types of situations. And I think maybe the 49ers now realize this, and I think other teams kind of now realize this. I mean, look at the Detroit Lions. They're stuck with Goff as their quarterback. He doesn't have a strong arm, and who are they going to draft? I've even seen mock drafts next year where they're using their very high pick on one of these top quarterbacks for next year. It's like, have you guys been watching the Lions this year? They have like the top offense in the NFL, and Goff was perfect for it. And that's what you need in the NFL these days is you've got all these incredible wide receivers, all these great options. Just look at the defense, figure out which one of these options has the best chance of getting open, throw a short pass to them, and let them run. That's been the secret to the 49ers' success. It was the secret to the Lions' success, and I think you're going to see more teams head down that road.
Okay, the games this weekend, obviously maybe if you had your Lions in there or the Steelers, maybe they'd be a little bit more interesting. Whenever you think these games aren't going to be good, I'm not going to say good, but, they're not going to kind of like give you a spark of excitement. That's when they kind of end up being exciting. That being said, we have a bunch of rematches. Every game's a rematch this year of a game from at least beforehand. Do you have any issues with the scheduling where they put these games? I mean, I'm not sure where you put who, where anyway with all these matchups, but any issues with the scheduling, the teams involved, anything like that?
It's unfortunate that, the way this works out sometimes, it's all luck of the draw. You can't really prevent it from happening. I mean, what are you going to say that, we're not going to allow, I'll give you an example. Look what college football playoffs did. They went out of their way. They never admit this. They went out of their way to avoid Michigan playing Ohio State in the first round of the playoffs. Right. And
they should have done that.
Because you're right. And and a lot of people didn't want to see Ohio State and Michigan again. And I understand that. Right. But that's the way it should have been. I mean, that's the way at the end of the season, that's the way the ranking should have been. And instead, what ends up happening, you get the worst championship game in the history of mankind. It's like, that's what happens when you start fooling with the matchups. And it's like, you know what? We'll take a couple of bad matchups early on in the playoffs in order to get good ones as we move along. And so I got no problem with with the way this has worked out. There's still interesting games, even though you've got teams playing each other for the third time in some cases. And that's just the way it goes. And the fact that, some games are Saturday, some games are Sunday, some games are Monday. I got no problem with that either. So I'm, zero issues this week with the scheduling.
Okay, first game on the slate, Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Seattle is at San Francisco. The 49ers minus 9.5, over under 42.5. The 49ers, we've broken them down, I think, more than any other team this year, to be honest, just because you're right there. And Seattle's no different. They've been right there since we talk about the AFC and the NFC West all the time with you. So this is a familiar game with us, familiar foes as well. Rich playoff history, actually, between the two. So down at Levi Stadium, it is 9.5, 42.5. My gut instinct right off the bat when I see this game, and I know we talked about how dominant the 49ers can be. This game scares me a little bit for sure. The Seahawks just know them. I think when you kind of want to count out the Seahawks, that's kind of when they play their best, to be honest. Maybe Purdy's a mistake or two away from letting them win the game. I'm not sure, but you made the point. They have so many weapons, just get them the ball in the simple passes, and the rest will do itself. So go ahead, let us have it. Break it down.
No, you said a lot of things that are spot on. I think that it's one thing to have a lot of experience against the other team. So another thing to have had a lot of success against the other team. And Seattle has had way more than their fair share of success against the 49ers over the years. And yeah, some of that was because Seattle had a really good team, but better team that they had now. But a lot of that is because Pete Carroll knows how to defend the 49ers. It's like, this is one of these matchups. I watched the Warriors play the Suns in basketball the other night. And it's like, when I watch the Suns, it's like, they have way too many athletes.
Yep.
They have way too many athletes. They weren't even playing anybody the other night. They have way too many athletes for the Warriors. And had they played in the playoffs last year, no doubt the Suns would have won. It's just a bad matchup. And that's what this is for the 49ers. Seattle's got great athleticism in their secondary and especially in their linebacker crew. If you're going to stop a short passing game, you need to have very mobile, instinctive type linebackers. And Seattle's had that over the years, and they still have that. You're going to see guys stepping in these windows where Purdy's not necessarily expecting them, because Seattle's going to be a step ahead of where most other teams are in defending the 49ers. And this, Purdy, for as well as he's done, this is not Tom Brady. He's not going to be able to all the time identify, this guy's moving toward my target. I need to go to a second area. He's going to throw the ball to that first area because it was always open against Arizona and against the Raiders. And he'll throw it, and he'll throw it right to a Seattle guy. Now, these teams just played, 3-4 weeks ago, a game the 49ers won, but a game where, if you remember, Purdy threw one right to a Seattle guy at a key point in that game where he, people say, if he caught it, he'd gone in for a touchdown. I don't know about that part, but at least it would have flipped the score. It would have put Seattle right back in the game. They ended up losing by only one score anyway. I think this is a very difficult game for the 49ers. Plus, you got the weather factor. Now, it's supposed to be rainy, quite rainy here at game time. I don't buy Seattle, it rains every day in Seattle, so they have an advantage over the 49ers there. They've probably been practicing indoors every day, so I'm not sure how much of a factor that is, but where rain becomes a factor is it makes the ball slippery. And that, that creates the potential for more turnovers, a muffed punt, a fumble, a strip sack, just a ball slipping out of somebody's hands. And those things are unpredictable. Those things don't happen to bad teams more than they happen to good teams. They happen to every team equally. And when it's like tossing a coin. And so who's going to get the advantage of that muffed punt in this game? You have no idea. But one team is a plus 300, and the other team is minus 350 or whatever on a coin flip. Well, I'm taking the plus 300 in a coin flip, and I think that is where this game, could turn in Seattle's favor. Like I said, plus they kind of have the secret to defending the 49ers. I think Seattle's got an excellent chance of winning this game.
Okay, they're plus 385 on the money line. Low scoring game. Do you think it just kind of slops up there? They're gonna maybe try to ball control it a little bit. Lots of defense. I'm going to
give you a score.
Explosive? Okay.
I gave you a heads up. Indication earlier when I threw out a score out there. But another thing that bad weather does is it can give you a weird score because the quarterback, the holder drops the ball on a snap and you miss an extra point. There's a safety because you miss a handoff in the end zone, you fall on the ball. Crazy things happen. So I'm going to give you Seattle 19, 49ers 18 this game.
19-18.
19-18.
Not even offered on the correct score. Isn't that kind of bad that they are? So on the correct scores, they offer you a bunch of scores, but there are definitely some scores missing. If that score hits, I mean, they scoop the pot. That just doesn't seem right to me.
Right. And the what should be available and will be as gambling becomes more mainstream. And what I mean mainstream, it more people get involved who don't know anything about football, but do know things like, they're offering 20-1 odds that one of the two teams scores exactly 18 points in this game. It's like buying a lottery ticket. I'm going to take 18 in this game. It's going to be my number at 20-1, and that's where the future, I think, of gambling is. You're going to get a lot of these weird. I don't know anything about football, but I'm taking 20-1 shot on that 18 is going to be one of the team's final scores. Gives you a rooting interest. You don't have to know anything about football, and that's what I would hope to find somewhere in the vast, gambling industry. Give me one that has allows me to take a 19 or 18 in this game. Good numbers in blackjack, and I will. I'll take a shot with 18 and 19 this week.
That's got to be more than 40-1 odds for just 18 points exactly. So I'll give you better than the 20-1, Dave, here at the Shakespeare Sportsbook. Okay, Brandon Staley, you have him halfway out the door maybe with the Chargers. They're 2.5-point favorites at Jacksonville. Late breaking news too. Mike Williams is out of the game. Over under is 47.5. The Chargers, I've been thinking a lot about these games all week, really trying to get a good impression here. All right, so my first impression is this with watching the playoffs over the years is that I feel like the team who's been there before has a little bit of a leg up over the new guy on the block. Now, there are teams like the Ravens with Ray Lewis and stuff who've definitely disproved that over the year. And that coach for Jacksonville, he could outcoach this coach at any time, maybe, to steal the win for sure. But I do like the playoff experience against the non-playoff experience. I'll give the Chargers a little bit of a leg up there. I do like quarterback Herbert. If he is the next big quarterback, as they say, well, his clock is ticking. He's actually due to do something and have a leg up there over Trevor Lawrence. But here we go. I mean, Williams is hurt. The Jaguars at this point, I mean, they're playing with house money, really. I mean, they won the game on a sack fumble, a game maybe they shouldn't have won last week against Tennessee. They're going to be an underdog at home. It is 40 degrees at kickoff, actually, in Jacksonville Saturday night. I think that's a wash for both teams. My initial thought is I'm going to trust the Chargers in this scenario. But, man, Jacksonville could do the same thing they did to them when the Chargers hosted them at home earlier in the season when Herbert had his busted ribs and everyone else was smoked them. I don't think it's necessarily a smoke job if the Jaguars win, but the injury concerns me a little bit. I love me some Austin Eckler. If the Chargers can control the clock, Herbert stays on top of his game, Eckler gets into the end zone a few times, I see the Chargers winning this game. What about you?
Well, again, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that, the experience factor certainly indicates that the Chargers should win this game. I just find it hard to believe that Jacksonville, I don't care who they're playing in this game, is going to jump right in there and play a really, play even a regular season level type of game. I don't think they're going to play their best game here. Problem is the Chargers, as I said before, I just think they've been really disappointing. And on another angle, I would say, the disappointing teams are, can't flip that switch and all of a sudden become great teams come playoff time. So I can't imagine the Chargers winning this game. It's like, well, one of them's got to win, and I have no idea which one it's going to be. What I do think about this game is, like you said, there are two very good quarterbacks, but there are two teams that don't run the ball well, and especially the Chargers don't run the ball well. Jacksonville's kind of gotten a little bit of a running game going lately, but in a big game like this, you have got to run the ball, move the chains, and especially if you have a lead. And you're going up against a really good quarterback, and I don't think either team has that capability. And so what I think you're going to see is more of a regular season kind of game here, and which means there'll be a lot more passing. The weather should it's not going to be snowing. The weather should be should allow for good passing numbers. We've seen before when the Chargers have injury issues at receiver. They've got some pretty good depth there. So that, losing Mike Williams is a big thing, but they have good guys coming off the bench there. I just think that the team that's behind in this game has a huge advantage in the fact that they get to throw the ball, which they do best, whereas the team that's ahead is going to think that they have to run the ball, which they can't do. And it's going to allow the team that's behind to come back. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in the second half of this game. And I just think the team that's behind and has the ball has got a really good chance of marching down the field quickly and scoring points, and then which flips the ball to the other team who has an equally good chance of rushing the ball, passing the ball down the field and scoring quickly. You're not going to see, the killer for taking a total in a game is when you need one more touchdown, but the team that's ahead has the ball with 9 minutes to go, and they hold the ball for 7 minutes, and they go down and they kick a field goal. And next thing you know, there's a minute and a half to go, and you still need 4 points. And now your team has exhausted all their timeouts. I mean, this is not going to be the kind of game because neither one of these teams has the capability of having that kind of a drive in that kind of situation. I think more likely in this game, if this game is a 7-point game with 9 minutes to go, there's going to be 3 or 4 more touchdowns scored. The team that has the ball last has a good chance of winning. So I look for a high-scoring game here. I look for big passing numbers, and I look for a very tight game that could go either way.
Okay, look at this. So I did find some second half bets, and the total points for the Jaguars in the second half is 10.5, and the total points for the Chargers in the second half is 12.5. So overs on both of those.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I just don't see the team that's behind that, they're a good passing team. And when they are behind, they're going to pass the ball. I mean, you have less of an option then. You might go into the game thinking, I think we can run the ball on these guys, but in the third or fourth quarter and you're behind, now you revert back to what are we doing running the ball when we got Trevor Lawrence, one of the top talented quarterbacks, and we've got these good wide receivers who've had great seasons. Let's start throwing it like we should have the whole game. And the same with the Chargers, who are far better passing team than they are a running team. Just sometimes you need that convincing. And, by the time you get into that mode, you're halfway through the second quarter, maybe sometimes into the second half. So it's hard to implement that, in the first half, but in the second half of a game like this, I think that's a very strong possibility.
And all the receivers and the tight ends are paying anywhere from 4 to 6 to 1 for a second half touchdown.
Well, it's and unfortunately in both cases here, you have teams that spread the ball around pretty well. You would think that Allen would have the best all around numbers for the Chargers, But okay, my boy Zay Jones, they don't they don't throw to him all that often, but he's kind of like Christian Watson. He's a guy that, for whatever reason, the ball finds his hands in the end zone, and which makes him kind of a nice guy to take a shot at, because he's only going to catch 4 or 5 balls, but they tend to be deep balls or passes around the goal line, and I would think that he'd be the most likely Jacksonville guy to catch a touchdown pass.
Zay Jones, anytime touchdown in the second half, plus 460. So not a bad price.
Yeah. Now, again, I like it. I think each team will score 2 touchdowns in the second half, and if that's the case, 3 out of those 4 touchdowns at least are going to be passing. And now you're telling me, well, if Jacksonville gets 2 passing touchdowns in the second half, Zay Jones is going to get at least 1, if not 2 of them. And Allen's going to get 1, if not 2, of the Chargers. So I think both of those guys are, strong plays.
Trevor Lawrence, 300-plus yards passing, 320. Justin Herbert, 300-plus yards passing, 144. If you think they both do it, plus 689. So almost 7-1 odds. Either of those guys top 300 or both of them?
Well, I would think that both have a real good chance. And like I said, I can't imagine, which one is not going to throw 35 passes. Like I said, Jacksonville, Etienne has run the ball decently in recent weeks, but this is, the level of defense, steps up, and come playoff time, it's harder to run the ball against these teams, especially when you're not great at it in the first place. I think both guys, if the game turns into the type of game that I think it's going to, it might be, in the first half, both guys are hanging around 120, 130 in terms of passing yards, and then it just catches fire in the second half when you see a lot of throwing from teams that are behind and teams that are, we got to let it all hang out. And I think that kind of strategy can backfire on teams if you're not that type of team, but both of these teams are that type of team. And I think that's actually going to work in their favor.
Okay, and if you get really frisky and you like them both for 325, you get 16-1 odds. All right, so I'll throw that out there. All right, let's go to Sunday. First game there. Definitely this would be a lot more interesting, at least in my mind, if this was Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Skyler, he's going to be the quarterback again for Miami. Let me go ahead and draw the lines up here. Here we go. So this is a 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 10 o'clock Pacific, so right after breakfast for Dave Del Grande. He will get the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. The Bills are 13.5 right now, but now that number's starting to juice towards 14. The over-under is 43.5 in this game. Let's see. Besides the quarterback there, Tyreek Hill might be a little banged up. The offensive line for the Dolphins is a little banged up. We know about the Bills. We can play the nostalgia card all day long with them and Hamlin and everything else that they've gone through, the quote-unquote team of destiny here in the playoffs. But you know what? The Bills didn't look so hot last week. They got 2 special teams touchdowns that were, in a game where we thought maybe the Patriots could get annihilated. Here are the Buffalo Bills again. They kind of almost seem to want to beat themselves even when they do win. I feel like they're trying to beat themselves in some circumstances. But, I mean, if there's a team that can flip that switch that you talked about beforehand just to get a little bit better, it's probably definitely Buffalo. This is just a bad spot for Miami. I'm going to expect Buffalo to easily advance in this one. In fact, this actually could be the blowout game of all the games. There might be 1 or 2 on the slate. I'm not really sure. Whenever I say there's a blowout, these games, I mean, this has been the tightest year in NFL history, I think, as far as point differential goes and the victories to the losses to these teams. So the Bills are a heavy favorite, over under 43.5. It looks like 28 degrees at kickoff. They played much colder last time. Dolphins, a wounded animal. There's even talks of Sean Payton coming there. I don't know what kind of distraction that might be for them. Probably none. But who knows? That coach might be one and done as well. Bills, great spot, Dave. What do you think?
I think the Bills are a very hard team to predict right now. I've been disappointed in the Bills the way they played the second half of the season. Certainly in the first half of the season, they look like the team in the NFL. I mean, maybe Philadelphia was still kind of identifying itself as the top team in the NFC. The Bills, based on how last season ended and started this season, there was no doubt in my mind that they were the best team in football at that point. But the second half of the season, they have not done well. I don't really know why. And again, I don't really think that, it's the playoffs and, we'll magically start playing our best football. Then you've got the whole Hamlin thing, which it can either be a very positive or a very negative. And I'm not sure exactly where they land. I'm sure there's still a lot of guys who are distracted by it. Why are we even playing this game? Where you could really help them is I'm not even sure he's physically capable of this, but if they brought him out there right before the game to fire up the crowd, he shows up, all of his players, get all excited, and it really pumps them up to have, their best performance of the year. And being that they're not going to be playing a whole lot of home games in the postseason, this might be their one opportunity to do that. And like I said, I'm not sure he's up to it. But if he is, if I knew that was happening, I would agree with what you said, that this is a 4-touchdown game. I mean, Miami is just not prepared to play this game right now. It's hard to believe that a quarterback going down, but it's more than just a quarterback going down. It's a second-string quarterback going down. I mean, Miami, I'd be shocked if they got rid of their coach. I mean, Miami was a team that, probably around week 10, I was saying, this is a team we don't want to be playing in the playoffs. This team is a touchdown waiting to happen on any play. They've got two of the best receivers. Their quarterback's really gunning. Their running back's got a little something going. But that team has disappeared. But yet I think it's going to be back next year. Whether Tua's the quarterback or somebody else, I think they have way too many weapons for it to just totally disappear. I'm just not sure we're going to see it at all this season. So I don't, like I said, I don't quite know what to think of Buffalo, but if we're going to see that one, we did it for our fallen soldier kind of approach, this is the week for it to happen.
It gets harder after that for sure. All that being said, too, I think I really like the under in this game. I just don't see where the Miami points come from, to be honest. So I think 43.5 is going to be too much. Let me ask you this, though. You can talk about that over under if you want. But is there a chance that it's just Josh Allen is the problem? He has the capability to make great plays. We all do know that. But he does do some stupid things, like throw the football in the back of some guy's helmet and it bounces up for an interception and stuff like that. And when I talk about the Bills shoot themselves in the foot, I mean, it's often at the hands of Josh Allen. Is it maybe that he's just not as good as advertised, Dave?
I'm not convinced of that.
Okay.
I think he's an elite quarterback. And one of the things that makes him elite in my mind is, it's nice to get those 4 to 5 free first downs in a game where he turns a 3rd and 8, nobody's open, into an 8.5-yard gain and move the chains. And we should be punting right now. Any other team in the league would be punting right now, but we've got our drive still going. And he's not one of these guys who he's going to go out of bounds a yard early. He's going to slide 2 yards early. he's going to put his head down and get that first down. It's surprising that he hasn't gotten more dinged up, over the year or over the course of his career. But he just, if I'm sure if Mahomes did more of that, Chiefs fans would be cringing every time he did. But with Allen, it kind of comes with the territory. I have a lot of respect for him because he does do that. I don't know. I think he's got a chance to be the best quarterback in the NFL. I thought he was this year at the beginning of the year. It hasn't turned out that way. I still think that could be the case in upcoming years. And so, no, I don't know. I'd find it hard to believe that he's a problem.
Okay. Anything prop-wise you would look at in this game?
Well, I'm not sure that I agree with you on the total aspect of this game, just because Miami has weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, I don't want to compare them to the 49ers necessarily, but there is a similarity there in that you can throw a pass, 3 yards over the line of scrimmage to Tyreek Hill and never see him again. You've got Waddle on the other side. Who is, if you call him the number 2 receiver, he's got to be the top number 2 receiver in the league. And so while you don't necessarily have a quarterback who can make the best use of these guys, you don't need a great quarterback to throw a wide receiver screen, a bubble screen, to throw the Tyreek Hill special right over the line of scrimmage in front of the linebackers, not behind the linebacker, and just watch the guy run. You've got Mostert, who's a breakaway threat at running back, can catch a flip pass or take one around the end and be gone. I think that I think Buffalo is, like I said, is going to win this game easily. But I do think Miami's going to find a way to get, for a game with a total like this to go under, if you expect it to be a blowout, what you're telling me is you don't think Miami's going to be able to score 14 points. And I do. I think they'll find a way, to get close to 20, maybe even more than 20, and still lose the game by 20 points. So, I think that, I think that despite the quarterback, I think that certainly Hill is a guy who could go for upwards of 100 yards receiving. And of course, the farther they fall behind, the more they throw the ball, the more touches he's going to get. Imagine him getting 10 touches in the game and now project his receiving total. Well, it's got to be 140 or higher. He's got to break one of them for 60 yards. So I think that's what I'd be looking for in this game, is a high receiving total for Hill. I also think that Buffalo can go a lot of different ways in their passing game, and so I think that the quarterback should have 2 or 3 touchdown passes, should have 1 or 2 rushing TDs. I think that you could go a lot of positive ways with the quarterback there too. So that's I see high scoring.
Okay. All right. Good.
Blowout.
So 32.
Blowout, high scoring.
Dawson Knox 32.5 for his yards. Let's see. Diggs is right at 79.5. Tyreek Hill 61.5. So you
that's a joke. That's a joke. I'd ask this. Here's my favorite question. You know what's coming about Tyreek Hill and that total.
Which half?
Which reception?
Yeah.
I mean, will he have a 61-yard pass, completion in this game? Yes or no? I'll take the plus 120 on that. What do you mean it's not plus 120? It's plus 990. According to the line you just gave me. Oh man, that's an absolute steal.
Okay.
Again, it's all being watered down by the quarterback.
Yes.
And that's fine when you've got, wide receivers, when you've got, the Tampa Bay guy? You
wide
know,
receivers.
yeah, your classic wide receiver that requires the quarterback to throw the ball 20 to 25 yards downfield in order for him, to get his big yards. That is not Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, you could throw the ball. You literally could flip the ball forward to Tyreek Hill on a jet sweep and get your 60 yards. And tell you what, you could step in at quarterback, not me necessarily, but you could step in there and complete that pass to Hill. So that's all right. That's my new top play of the day right there is 61.
Well, yeah, and Waddle's 47.5, and if you like Tyreek for 90 plus, you get 3-1 odds, a little over 4-1 if you can get to 100. Let's see here.
Like I said, if this game goes as obviously everybody's projecting, if the line's 14 or whatever you said, then it's you think Miami's going to run the ball? First off, they can't run the ball anyway. But you think they're going to run the ball the entire second half of the game? They go into halftime and they're trailing 24-6 or whatever, and so they throw the ball 30 times in the second half. The ball's going to get into Hill's hands 6 times, and he touches the ball 6 times in the second half. There is no way Tyreek Hill has never touched the ball 6 times in a game and had less than 60 yards. I mean, it's almost impossible for him unless he starts running backwards, for that to happen. He's good at running sideways, by the way. I wish they counted that. That's, I like that.
Okay, Skylar Thompson, 182.5 for his passing yards total.
Yeah, who knows with him? I mean, is it possible? First off, is it possible that Bridgewater is coming back?
He could come back in. Yeah,
and that's that totally shoots that. Also,
asking for trouble. Yeah.
I mean, you're down 31-0 at halftime, and your quarterback's been embarrassing. You got to trot out the other guy, right? I mean, who's the next guy in line? Because this guy's not working, so you don't really know that he's even going to show up for the second half if he's as bad as people think he is. So no, I'm going to stay away from his numbers.
Okay, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1:30 on the West Coast. We have the New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. Weather won't be an issue indoors in Minnesota. The Vikings are a field goal favorite. The over-under is 48.5. And, the Vikings are famous for winning all of these real low-scoring games, but they've won a lot of games. The Giants, they find their way into the playoffs after having a nice season. Interesting game. My gut instinct tells me on this one, it's kind of the same philosophy. I'm going to go with San Diego. It's the Vikings have been there at least some before. I mean, they've been in the playoffs. The Giants have not. I mean, that's got to count for something. I have been waiting for the Vikings to blow someone out all season, and it hasn't happened. But I've been on their bandwagon kind of from day one, and we know that they're vulnerable. I don't know. There's something in me that kind of says, you get the one team that gets into the playoffs, and then they kind of get on that hot run, especially if Seattle can somehow beat San Francisco. All right, that might help the cause here. The team that I have in mind that could actually kind of just, I don't know if they're sneaking out of nowhere if they do this, but I mean, I kind of feel like it how they're getting downplayed just because of the nature of how they win games. But man, they got some weapons. I mean, they have Jefferson. I mean, they got Hawkinson. They got Cook. Cousins. I mean, he is going to be the complete X factor on how far the Vikings go, and I guess their defense as well. Their defense is bound to give up a ton of points. Who knows? But my instincts tell me that this is a Vikings win. In fact, they could actually come out and maybe win this game by a couple of scores. To be honest, I think I could be completely wrong because I've been completely wrong on that before. But what are your instincts about this game going into a Sunday?
Well, I'm hearing a lot of people picking the Giants to win this game, and I think that there's two aspects to that. Number one, like you said, for whatever reason, people don't think Minnesota is a very good team. They're 11-4, right? And it's not like, well, they went 11-0 in their division and they lost every time they played a good team. They only played 6 division games. They beat some pretty decent teams this year. And secondly, I think America loves an underdog. And you're in the playoffs, your team didn't make it, or maybe they did, and that's just one of the the 6 games that are going on. You're looking for a rooting interest in the other games. Where's that underdog that I can root for that actually has a chance to win? And you start looking at the games, you say, Seattle's not going to beat San Francisco. Oh, I'm not going with Jacksonville. They've never been there before. And I'm not taking Baltimore without their quarterback. Oh, I'm not taking Miami without their quarterback. It's like, well, the Giants. Well, they're kind of the only team left standing. They're a team that actually has a chance to win this game. People don't think Minnesota. People think Minnesota is a phony division champ, and so a lot of people are picking the Giants. And I'm not really sure they really know what they're talking about. Like you said, Minnesota is an elite of the elite offensive teams. And this game reminds me a little of the Chargers game against the Jaguars, because I don't think either team's going to have success running the ball. The way you beat Minnesota is by passing the ball. A lot of teams have had passing success against them. And the Giants are, a good defensive team against the run. And so this, again, I don't really see your classic cold weather, run the ball, play conservatively. That's how we're going to win this game. That's not how this game is going to be won. This game is going to be won by the team that passes the ball the best. And I think that team, without a doubt, is Minnesota. I mean, Kirk Cousins gets a lot of criticism, but there are about 4 other playoff teams this week that would die to have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. And one of them, the 49ers. Right. I have way more confidence that he can get the job done than Daniel Jones. Although, I've kind of been high on Daniel Jones all season. He's another one of these guys who helps himself out by running the ball. I think maybe he runs a little bit too much. And I just think Minnesota has all the passing weapons. Adding Hawkinson as tight end is just overkill for them. They're great on the outside. They're great with the tight ends. They've, like you said, they got a good running back when they need to change their pace. Even he catches passes. I just think there's too many weapons there. I think that in a high-scoring game, I take Minnesota in this game.
Could you see something like 34-21, 34-20, something like that?
I don't see why either team doesn't score 27 or 28 points in this game. I mean, it's been the story. It's been the story of Minnesota's season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Minnesota. I mean, crying out loud for all the talk about what a great comeback against Indianapolis in the Thanksgiving game. The Thanksgiving that day.
That was a Saturday, that was the Saturday 3 games.
Okay.
Whenever they did,
whatever it was, it seemed like a holiday. And it was like, well, the only reason they had to score 39 points that day is because Indianapolis, like the worst offensive team in the league, scored 38.
And the Patriots scored a bunch of that was the Thanksgiving game was with the Patriots, who scored a ton of points.
Yeah.
They scored a ton of points.
There you go. There's another example of bad offensive team. So I think that I think the Giants are going to be able to put up big points on these guys. I'm just not sure the Giants are going to be able to slow them down. And like I said, with the Jacksonville game, you're not going to sit on a lead in this game. First of all, I don't think either team's good enough to go 3 touchdowns up, to be able to really sit on a lead. but it's just not going to work. I mean, if the Giants happen to catch every break and they're winning this game 28-10 in the third quarter, last thing they're going to do is start playing conservatively because you've got the Colts game on your, you just watched the tape of that game and you saw what Minnesota's capable of in like 10 minutes. They can completely flip a game like that. So you've got to continue doing what's being successful. And in this case, if the Giants are successful offensively, it's going to be because of their passing game, and Minnesota, it's going to be because of their passing game. And with neither team sitting on the lead, like I said, what that means is that it's kind of all or nothing. If last thing you want to do when you're winning a game is throw 3 incomplete passes and 30 seconds later you punt the ball back to the team that's behind. But that's what's going to happen in a game like this. And so you're going to get a lot more possessions, a lot more chances to pass the ball down the field. And I think this is going to be a very un-playoff-like result.
All right. So if there's one person who's been slighted a little bit in the end zone, it's definitely Justin Jefferson. We've even had a discussion on this show a few weeks back about him potentially being the MVP if push comes to shove down the stretch. If he kind of had a successful end there, he just hasn't found the end zone because of the spread of the wealth, as you say, with the riches on offense that the Vikings have. But if Jefferson could have, here we are in the playoffs, your stars tend to shine in the playoffs. Here we are. Is it worth $10? Justin Jefferson, 3 touchdowns, 40 plus 4,400. So $10 wins you 440 on Jefferson. If he can come on out and light it up. Now, I think he has a pretty good defender. I think, is it a Dory Jackson going against him this week? So that might not help that cause at all. But Jefferson, he could bust out for 2 or even 3, right? Maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's one guy in the league who you would say has that kind of potential, other than Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill is really handcuffed by the quarterback this week, that is Jefferson. I mean, he's a touchdown waiting to happen on basically any catch. They throw the ball deep to him a lot. He catches a lot of deep balls. And again, on sheer volume, if this is a game where the quarterback's throwing 22 times, well, no way he's going to get 3 touchdowns. But in a game where the quarterbacks are throwing 35 to 40 times and he's getting 12 to 14 targets, well, certainly he could get a couple of touchdowns, maybe 3 if he breaks a tackle here and there. So yeah, I mean, he would be a rare bird where I would say, yeah, you know what? This guy does have a chance to score 3 touchdowns in a game like this.
Okay, Sunday night, 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, 5:15 West Coast time. The Ravens at the Bengals. Bengals minus 8.5, 40.5. These two teams played just last week. We would have hit a master jackpot if the Bengals could have just played a little bit better against the Ravens and covered a little bit more of an all line there. But, I'm going to give Anthony Brown some credit and the Ravens. They played the Bengals actually somewhat tough. It's hard to question motive. I'm not going to question motivation. How about that? Not even going to go there. So this seems like this would be another blowout on paper. But here we are. The spread this morning was right at Bengals minus 10, and now it's down to 8.5. I don't think maybe Huntley might be the reason why. I'd have to check that on the breaking news. But we most likely, I think we're going to see Huntley as the quarterback. Burrow and company, they were in the Super Bowl last year. Rematch, third game. Familiar opponents. Again, Dave, what's your take? I don't know. I think this is every time I can't handicap the Ravens game. That's what I know. Every time I want to pick against them, they do good. Every time I go with them, they look like garbage. I have a feeling if I jump on the Bengals bandwagon like everyone else in the United States probably will be doing on Sunday night, trying to win their money back, the Ravens are going to do something to spoil that. That's just my gut feeling on that. Maybe 40.5 is too low for a number. If that's what's going to happen, I don't know. Maybe that's the way you beat the Bengals, is you just kind of Bill Parcells kind of ball control clock and don't let them have the ball. That's got to be the game plan. A heavy dose of J.K. Dobbins may be the way to go prop wise on this game. Dave, I don't know. Go ahead. Let me have it.
No, I like it. I mean, the Ravens, they play the same game every week. It's how many field goals can Justin Tucker kick? And I mean, it's shocking how few touchdowns this team scores, and yet somehow, some way, they hang in the game. And I'm not going to bet against that this week. Happening. It happens every week. Why wouldn't it happen again against a familiar opponent? Baltimore's defense. I mean, Cincinnati's got a great offensive team, but it matches up with Baltimore's defense, which is top notch as well. I don't see Cincinnati having a big offensive game in this game. And at the same time, as opposed to some of the other games that we've been talking about, there's an incentive for Cincinnati to play conservatively in this game. First off, so they have a good running attack. And secondly, you don't need to fear punting the ball back to Baltimore, because Baltimore's not going to do anything with it when they get it. So you can run the ball, 3 times and punt it to the Ravens, as opposed to these other games that we were talking about, the Giants game against Minnesota. You run the ball 3 times and you punt it to Minnesota, your lead's going to be 7 points less within 3 minutes, because they're going to come right back and score on you. Baltimore can't do that. Baltimore will, require 7 minutes to go 50 yards and kick their field goal. So worst case scenario, you've given up 3 points, but 7 more minutes have come off the clock. So I can easily see Cincinnati getting into that kind of mode, especially if they get that first early touchdown. One early touchdown is going to be huge in this game, because if it's Baltimore that gets it somehow, some way, it keeps them in the game the entire game. They may not need another touchdown the rest of the game to hang in there 16-13 and win this game. If it's Cincinnati that gets that early touchdown, and now all of a sudden Baltimore's saying, oh my goodness, it takes us 2.5 quarters to score 7 points. How in the world are we ever going to catch up to them? And then they start making mistakes, which they don't usually do, and it gets them into trouble. So I think that the key is going to be Baltimore's defense. I got a lot of confidence in Baltimore's defense. I can't imagine them winning this game, but I also can't imagine them getting blown out either. So I think, I'd look for a lot of field goals in this game. I think that the kickers, could be the first and second highest scoring guys in this game. With each one of them kicking at least 2 field goals, maybe 3, maybe 4. Because even though Baltimore, like I said, Baltimore's defense is good, but Cincinnati's offense is really good. So it's not like there's a mismatch there. Cincinnati's going to be able to move the ball, maybe just not get into the end zone. And Baltimore always moves the ball, decently, between the 20s, and then can't do anything once they get down to the goal line. So I can easily see a field goal fest here and a low scoring, tight game where I can see where the number coming down in this game is a good idea, because that's a ton of points when you're talking about Baltimore.
Talked about Dobbins. He's paying pretty good on his props here. This one's going to be a little shocking to me when I go over here in a minute, to be honest. Let's see. The Dobbins alternate rushing yards. If we like him, I mean, if we're going to try ball control for the Ravens, it's got to be Dobbins, right? 90+ yards, plus 320 for Dobbins, 100+ yards, 520. How about this? If Dobbins can get a rushing and a receiving touchdown, 171 odds.
That would require Baltimore to score twice in the same team. And the odds of that happening are probably higher than that. So I think you're getting a little carried away here. I don't think you're talking about – I think that, Cincinnati has a better chance of putting up those kinds of rushing numbers, because, like I said, there's no reason for Cincinnati to, obviously they've got great receivers, they got great quarterbacks, so of course there's every reason for Cincinnati to throw the ball, but there's really no reason to risk it when the other team can't score against your defense. And so, you have every right to play conservatively. They, for the most part, they give 75% of their carries to the same guy. Mixon is a big back, who can handle the ball 20 to 25 times. I can easily see him going for 80, 90, 100 yards. And if Cincinnati's able to get ahead early on, maybe even, pushing it to 140, type. I'm not sure he's going to, I wouldn't necessarily think he's going to be the guy scoring touchdowns because, Baltimore's stingy around the goal line. But in terms of yards, I can see him being the number one, yardage gainer of anybody in this game.
Okay, so Mixon 80-plus yards is plus 270, 90-plus plus 410. To get over 100, he is plus 630. And to get 100.
Okay, so here,
yep.
So it comes down to this. If you really think that Cincinnati has a chance to blow out Baltimore, here are your options. You can lay the 8.5 points or whatever and get even money, or you can take Mixon to gain 100 yards and get whatever you said, 6-1 or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
plus 630.
Because both things, these two things go together.
They correlate. Yeah,
if Cincinnati blows out Baltimore, they're going to have a big rushing day. And so why would you settle for the even money? And when you could easily get 6-1 on basically the same bet. So that's why I would head more in that direction. And plus the fact is that even if it's not a blowout, he's got a chance to rush for those kinds of yardage. So it's, wow. Makes no sense to me that, to lay 8.5 points in a game like this when you have other options that are higher paying.
Okay, so we'll do a quick review here. So Chargers, Jaguars passing props. We'll look at Tyreek Hill and his alternate receiving yardage. We'll look
put a star by that one.
Yeah. We'll look at Jefferson to get into the end zone twice, and we'll look at Mixon on his rushing props. Okay.
Yes,
that's a good little round robin we can
get
going with.
Right.
Okay.
And throw in there Seattle to score 19 points, and man, you become not Sean Payton, but McVay's neighbor next year up on the Hollywood Hills.
All right, last game on Monday night, 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, 5:15 Pacific Time. Here we go. ESPN gets their game of the year. They finally get a good game here on a Monday night. Cowboys and the Buccaneers, although I feel like the Buccaneers are on every Monday or Sunday night, right? Maybe at times. Cowboys minus 2.5, over under 45.5. I've heard the case made all week by everyone all over the place that it is Tampa Bay's game to win and that they're going to move on. I'm like, wait a minute, pump the brakes here. What am I missing? Now, the Cowboys can look completely sloppy at times at Washington last week. But, they know that they're in the playoffs already. They weren't convinced. They weren't too convincing at Tennessee either. But they've had they've had a nice season overall. We talked about McCarthy there a little bit, Dave. Maybe if they do lose this game, maybe this is his last stand here for the Cowboys. 45.5 points. I've been on the Buccaneers probably more than anyone this year, and it hasn't paid off at all. And the Cowboys, I've been on them a decent amount, and they've actually have paid off. So my gut instinct is to go with the team that has actually paid off at some point for me, and not the team that has never paid off. So I'm going to lean Cowboys here, and. Well, they have the offensive capability to put some points up as well, but Tampa Bay does have a good defense. Micah Parsons, I mean, if Brady can't get protection, I mean, he might be all over Brady. I'm not sure to make out if it's going to be a low-scoring game or a high-scoring game. I guess I'm going to lean more of a lower-scoring game just because of the defenses. But, maybe Dak can break out and CD Lamb all day. Maybe. I don't know. Monday night game should be a fun one. Tom Brady, California native, Bay Area native. What do you got on this one?
Well, I can't imagine it being a high-scoring game. Right. I mean, first off, like you said, it is a matchup of a team that, for the most part, has met expectations this year against a team that's nowhere near meeting expectations. And when that's the case, you would expect that to continue in the playoffs. But you got the Tom Brady factor, and he's not going to give a playoff game away. And so that's one less thing you have to worry about, in this game is, well, who's going to make the dumb mistake and lose this game? Well, if there was a line on that, I would lay 800 that it would be the Cowboys making that mistake. It's
always do. Right? They always do.
Yes, it's a way. It's it haunts McCarthy. Whether it's his fault or he's just haunted, I don't know. But I personally think he's one of the worst coaches in the league. I've heard people say that he ruined Rodgers' career, which is hard to believe because Rodgers had a great career, but he ruined Rodgers' career with the Packers, and now he's ruining a good thing with the Cowboys. All right, and there might be something to that. I do think that he is not a good coach. And if he loses this game and Jerry can hire Sean Payton to be his next coach, I guarantee you nobody's going to offer, more money. But so I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I just can't trust Tampa Bay to take advantage of that. And I can see Tom's going to be able to move the ball between the 20s, but they're going to have trouble getting into the end zone. I mean, Dallas is a pretty good defensive team, like you said. They're going to get to Brady, sack him, make him throw the ball early. I just can't imagine them sustaining big drives that end up in the end zone. So I can see them moving and kicking field goals, and then, putting the onus on the Tampa defense, which is good. And I just don't see Dallas's offense playing consistently enough to have a big offensive day against Tampa's defense. Again, I think you'll see a team that moves the ball well. Dallas will probably win the yardage battle in this game. They've got a better offense, but I just don't trust them when push comes to shove to make the big plays. And so I think you're going to see, I said this about the Baltimore game for different reasons, I think you're going to see a lot of scoring in this game, but it's going to come in field goals. I just can't. I don't see either team scoring more than 2 touchdowns in this game, but I do see teams kicking 3, 4, even 5 field goals because you're going to be able to move the ball, and when you move the ball between the 20s effectively, especially the way Tampa does, Tampa, in order for them to get from the 120 to the other, takes 6 minutes. And so you take 6 minutes, you kick your field goal, and you do that 2 or 3 times in the game, that game is going under the total. So I think, to me, the 2 big winners in this game are going to be the 2 kickers. You've got a good weather game. And I think that it's, it could be one of those, like I said, maybe a 3 touchdown game where there's 6 or 7 field goals. So what are we talking there? 20?
Points? Yeah, 38.
Yeah, I mean, we're 23 to 20. Or something. Something of that nature. So even 23 to 20 is a game that has 4 touchdowns. So probably even less than that. So I don't know. Again, playoff games, we've talked a lot about how these playoff games don't necessarily resemble playoff games in many ways. The Jacksonville Chargers game, the Vikings and Giants game, these are not good teams. These are not really playoff type teams where you say, well, this is going to be a real playoff game. This is going to be a good regular season type of game for those teams. But these two on Monday, these are heavyweights. These are teams that are championship or bust type of teams that are going to be in that mode from the opening snap of this game. It's going to be very difficult to score points in this game. And like I said, give me each kicker, to be the top scorer in this game. And where's the prop on that?
Brett Mayer, over 7.5 is his points. Ryan Suckup over 6.5 is his points. So you figure if there's 3 touchdowns and a couple field goals each kicker, you're going to get that. This has every bit of smelling like a 4-kicker parlay on the Sunday and the Monday night games.
There you go.
And if you like 23-20 on either side, then you get paid 70-1 both ways. Either the Cowboys win or the Buccaneers win.
Well, let's see. Man, I hate to even throw this number out there again. But let's look at Tampa in this game. Let's look at Dallas in this game to score 1 touchdown and 4 field goals, gives them 19. And let's look at Tampa, to give you 2 of each. 20-19 is my 20-19 is my score in this game. Ooh, the 19. There's that magic number this weekend. 19. It's a winning number for Seattle. It's a losing number for Dallas. There's your lottery, number for the week. 19.
All right, Buccaneers 20, Cowboys 19. 200-1 odds. There you
go. I hope the house next door to McVay is available.
All right. 2-part question. We'll let you get out of here. You used the word trust, and that's a great word to use here in the playoffs. I ask myself that all the time when I don't know. Well, who do you trust more? So, of all the teams playing this weekend, who do you trust most to win the Super Bowl? And how about this? B, obviously you're going to get benefited by a bye, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Do you make the Chiefs-Eagles the favorite to be the Super Bowl matchup?
Well, we've talked a lot about the kinds of games that are going to be played this week. And what makes the games interesting in some ways is that they involve 2 fairly even teams that are not good teams. I think that all season long, to me, 5 teams have distinguished themselves above the rest. Okay, and that's the Eagles, the 49ers, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. I think between those 5, you're going to have your 2 Super Bowl teams. Now, I think the 49ers are flawed because of their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bills are somewhat flawed because of the craziness of what's happening and not getting home field and all this nonsense. And so I'm throwing them out. I think Philadelphia should be a huge favorite to win the NFC. They've been the best team in the NFC all season long by far. And the only reason they're not considered that anymore is because the quarterback got hurt. But, he's had a lot of time now to get better. And if he is anywhere near what he used to be, there's your best team in the NFC, hands down. AFC is much more tighter because you've got 3 teams, but unfortunately for 2 of them, they're stuck playing each other in the semifinals, while Kansas City gets a cakewalk, into the Super Bowl. Plus, Kansas City is playing. Well, Cincinnati is playing close to Kansas City's level right now, but Kansas City's playing their best football of the season right now, and I think that Kansas City again, forget about the buys, forget about, the whatever. I'm just saying, for best football, Kansas City's playing the best football in the AFC right now, not by as large a margin as the Eagles are in the NFC. So I think that those are your two teams. I hate to say, well, gee, take the top seed in both conferences. Anybody could say that, but unfortunately, that's where I'm headed with this, because I just don't see the only three candidates I think that have a chance to prevent Kansas City and Philadelphia. I just don't see any of those three, getting there, for different reasons. So that's, I'm taking those two.
Yeah, and when I try to figure out, who I want to try to ride all the way, I don't know. Something just tells me that it's time for Andy Reid to get one more, only because I could see him winning more than one in his career. And Pat Mahomes too, if he's the transcending quarterback, he's going to win another one too. And I think it sets up actually nicely for Kansas City. It's not like their defense is the greatest. Yes, they are beatable, that's for sure. But like you said, they might have a cakewalk into the championship game. And even then, if they're not at home, they're going to play on some neutral, quiet field indoors, and that's going to be fine for Pat Mahomes. Something just tells me Chiefs are going to win it all. Do you want to pick a winner, or do you not care to do that?
I take the Eagles,
okay.
Just because I think they've been the best team all season. I think they have the easiest path to get there, and it's kind of like the old days. The old days, not that long ago, when LeBron was playing for Cleveland, and you knew, well, Cleveland's going to be in the finals.
Right.
Question is, who's coming out of the West? And the West had 5 or 6 different teams, and they're all knocking each other off. And as it turned out, the Western team ended up beating LeBron most of the times. But it's just a lot safer to say, I'm picking LeBron to win the title because I know he's going to be there. And then, sure enough, he did win the one time against the Warriors. But I think that's what we got here. I think that, Kansas City is very good. Buffalo and Cincinnati, you're going to end up having to play each other and then have to beat Kansas City. That's almost impossible to go through. Whoever survives that, Kansas City and Buffalo in the title game like last year, would be an absolute war, And yeah, you get 2 weeks to recover from that, but there's going to be scars. Meanwhile, Philadelphia, if they play as well as they have all season, which I think they can, I don't see why they wouldn't. They could go into the Super Bowl having won, their playoff games by a couple touchdowns apiece. And at that point, you're going to be saying, "Wow, well, this Philadelphia team, we've underestimated them. What were we thinking?" Well, you know what? You're right. What were you thinking? Because this team has been, this team won fantasy titles this year for everybody, and this team, if not for Hurts's injury, we'd be talking about them at a completely different level. And the fact is, by the time he plays next week, may not be injured anymore. And so we should be talking about them at a different level. So I'll take Philadelphia.
Okay, and we'll get to break those teams down next week with whomever they will be playing and comes out of the games this week. Okay, Dave, we appreciate the time, man. That was a lot to go over. Shorter slate than usual and longer time. So we appreciate all your efforts on this. Have fun watching the games, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Looking forward to it.
All right. Have a good one, man. All right. So Dave Del Grande with Field Level Media joining us. That was great, man. He had lots of good stuff. So we're going to have to publicize that rebroadcast for sure. If you're tuning in late, you're going to want to go back and get a piece of all that, man. A lot to take in with Del Grande. I think we got props all across the board and some good insight there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and end this live stream. We got the soccer paycheck. We got to come back and do that game going on right now. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. So I'll take a break. I'll come back with the Friday soccer paycheck, And then we're on for our live broadcast tomorrow from CP Shuckers Shore Drive, 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Come on out and see us. That is at 3232 Shore Drive in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So let's take a break. Actually, we'll go ahead and close this show. We'll get the pie tasters queued up. We'll go ahead and get on out of here. Dave Del Grande, man, great interview. About an hour and a half with him. So good stuff with him. I think we have a lot to work with going into these wild card weekends. Okay, this is the special edition of the Friday Round Robin. We'll have more Round Robin tomorrow live from CP Shuckers. Coming up next, the Friday Soccer Paycheck.